Hello friends!
Welcome to our update video. We have gotten so many new friends over the last, couple of months?
Couple of months, yes.
Couple of months. Lots of new friends have joined us here at Our Restoration on YouTube. We're so incredibly grateful to have you here. You have no idea what it means to us. First of all, just to have people interested in what we're doing, but even more so, those of you who email, comment, message, and say, we love what you're doing and you've inspired us to do it. That is our purpose. We're not just here to show you fixing up houses. There are tens of thousands of other people who show you how to do that. We want you
can do it too.
To join.
Join the nation.
Join the nation. You too can rehabilitate, restore, and preserve a historic home. It's not scary. So many people say it's frightening, and we're here hopefully to show you that with your 2 hands or 4 hands or 6 hands if you have kids, maybe, I don't know, you can do it too. It really also helps us immensely get the word out and get more people active in our nation if you share our videos, like our videos, comment on our videos, and subscribe to our channel. We thought we would give you a little clarification because clarification is always nice.
You're confused, we're confused.
Everyone is confused. There was much confusion in the land. We know that there are a lot of projects that you see. If you go back through our videos and you're trying to watch and catch up, it can get very confusing as to what's going on, what happened to what house, where we stand with what house. So since we have 4 active projects, and then you're gonna see some other houses in here.
And here's some other names.
We thought we would fill you in on all the ladies in our lives.
So let's begin.
Should we start with Louise, which is kind of like, because a lot of people watch the video and then they want to know what caused the fire, right?
Sure.
So I'm going to let you talk a little bit about Louise.
Louise is a home that we bought in Louisville, Georgia, sight unseen. It was a house that was very well known that no one would take on because it was in such bad condition.
Disaster.
But Lane and I actually saw pictures of it and said, we'll have that house. We're going to bring that baby back. We were well on our way.
About a third of the way through the project, probably.
Put a lot of work into it.
All the structure, roof,
a lot of money, a lot
windows.
of sweat. And lightning struck a neighbor's tree, which threw fiery debris everywhere and into our house. It burned basically to the ground in 15 minutes, basically.
We were here, it was actually on our 24th wedding anniversary. We were coming home from our anniversary dinner. We got a phone call. We live 10 hours away from there, so we got a phone call. One of our workmen saying the house is on fire, and we both thought like a tool fire, like a small fire. And
less calling, more stomping.
Right, like stomp it out. Like, can't you make it quit? Like, throw some water on it, it'll be fine. By the time we got home, we got a FaceTime call and basically sat on FaceTime and watched it burn to the ground with firefighters working frantically to try to save her. Luckily, no one was hurt.
Keeping it from spreading to the neighbor's house, which was fantastic.
Right, so that is what sort of started this whole community. Now, we've been in restoration work for about 20 years, so we had many projects before that, but Louise is who you see in our logo. She'll stay in our logo. It's the house you see in the opening of all of our videos, and she will stay in the opening of all of our videos, and it's the one that we get a lot of questions about because people get so excited when they see us doing the early walkthroughs and hear us telling the early story of the restoration, and then they get to the fire and they want to know what happened. So that's what happened with our beautiful Louise.
That is our Lady Louise. We are currently sitting in Scotty. Scotty is our home base. We're in Conway, Arkansas, and this is a beautiful Victorian.
A folk Victorian.
A folk Victorian, and it was about to be knocked to the ground.
It was being sold as a tear down. At the time that we bought this house, we lived a block and a half away in a 1933 colonial revival that we had done a rehabilitation on. Beautiful home, but I had always loved this home. I grew up here in this little town and had driven by this house 5,000 times and always said, if it's ever for sale, I want that house.
Well, that was a colonial and you're a Victorian girl, right?
It's true, it's true. And we loved that house. It was beautiful, but it just never felt like this is my home. It always felt like this is a project home. We're gonna bring it back from being Pepto-Bismol pink and apricot orange to being what it should be and really giving it a beautiful rehabilitation. And then this one was put on the market. And we did actually make an offer on this one sight unseen we got into it before the offer was accepted, which was great, but we had made the decision that we were gonna take this house on. I don't think either one of us realized, even after we saw it, how truly horrible the condition was.
It was one of those houses that had, they had basically put Band-Aids over all the problem areas.
And the Band-Aids
carpet over that hole and paneling over that hole, and
it was literally being held together by paneling.
Paneling and carpet.
Yeah. We bought the house. We had our foundation. We do a lot of foundation work, but when the foundation is massive, there's major work to do, we do call in a big crew. And we had our foreman come in and he took a look under the house and he came back out and he said, well, first of all, he said, "You ain't bought that house yet, have you?" And we had.
Afraid so.
And then he said, "You cannot go back in there until we basically jack the house up and put an entirely new foundation underneath it." And so that was step number one to the rehabilitation of our sweet Scotty here, and then started the real work. How long did this rehabilitation really take us?
It took us almost a year before we got into the house, but
Right.
we moved into the house before it really had a kitchen, right?
Oh, it had no kitchen at all.
It had no floor in the kitchen, did it?
No, it had nothing. Don't you remember? It was stud walls still in the kitchen.
I try to forget,
It
honestly.
was stud walls, and it really was still just stud walls
Right.
in the kitchen. Everything else was close to finished, but we were living with my in-laws, and they were so gracious to let us live with them. But after a year, we thought it was going to be. It really was like 18 months.
And our 4 dogs at the time, I think.
Yeah, it was a long
And
process.
it was time to get in the house. So
there was a lot.
It's been a long process.
It was a long process. There was a lot of demolition, and then there was a lot of rebuild. There was extensive water and termite damage. He wasn't kidding when he said we pulled up the carpet in the bedroom, and there was a 6x6 hole under the carpet that the carpet had been holding the bed up, and there was just dirt. There was just to the ground dirt under about 3 feet down. The hardwood floors. We pulled up the carpets and exposed the hardwood floors, and our workmen kept falling through the floor. So we had to do all new subfloor flooring, and basically we had to recreate this house from square one. Everything was destroyed or damaged beyond repair. So, this house is living proof that there's no such thing as a tear down.
Absolutely. All right, Lane, what project do we want to go to
Should
next?
we do like alphabetical order for all the rest of them?
Well, I was kind of thinking the timeline. I was going to go chronological.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to go with your kind of that logical male brain. So.
I think the next one we bought was Helen, right? In Helen, Arkansas.
So you mean like chronological?
That
which
we
one
bought.
we
That we bought.
Yes. So Helen, we purchased. She was our next home. We looked at several houses after we lost Louise because we knew that we had this great community that had formed around Louise, that had formed around her rehabilitation, her preservation, and we didn't want to just abandon this movement that had started with her. And so we knew we immediately wanted to start another project. So we started looking, and we looked at a beautiful home in Starkville, Mississippi that we really thought we were going to take on. There's a video on it. That became a very difficult process.
Eufaula, Alabama.
Alabama, we made an offer on.
Amazing house there that we made an offer on and couldn't come to an agreement on.
Yes, because sometimes you really do. One of the things that makes you successful at taking on rehabilitation projects is being able to walk into the project and see this is how much the house costs and this is how much we're going to be able to put into it and what is it going to be worth when it's finished. Even if, like us, you don't necessarily sell the homes when you're done with the rehabilitation, you want to have liquidatable assets once you're done.
And we don't talk about money a lot, but know that we always do that or we would be broke.
Yes, we would be in the poorhouse.
Right.
So then I have a very good friend who I call him my house dealer, I'm a house junkie. He's my house dealer.
Right.
He's the one who helped us get Louise, and then he's the one that received a phone call about this wonderful home in our home state of Arkansas, in Helena, Arkansas. The tap and pillow house that we have lovingly named Helen.
Helen.
She was built in 1858, so she's our oldest baby, and had been lived in by the Pillow family for probably 60 years, I think.
60
They've
years?
been there. No, they bought it the same year that you were born, so 54 years.
Don't tell them. I'm in my late 40s. I'm 54.
Yes, exactly. Very, 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 very elder 40s.
Yes, exactly.
And the owner had lived there until she was in her late 90s, and 6 months before we looked at the house, she had passed away, and the family was looking for someone to take on the property that would do a true rehabilitation preservation. She is a very historically important home. You want to tell them a little bit about her history?
Oh, I'm gonna fail horribly.
Oh, come on, a pop quiz.
This is a very important home. It was actually owned by General Tappan?
Yes.
General Tappan, who was a Confederate general. When the war started, he left. I don't remember where he went.
He went to war.
Well, but where? I can't remember where he went.
To the war.
Around. And Helena
his
was...
family refugeed out of Helena. They did not stay in Helena.
And Helena was taken over by the Union forces soon after the war.
The Battle
started.
of Helena. Oh yeah, you're failing. You would get a D on the pop quiz.
Well, absolutely. How could you give me history? That's the...
I thought by this point we'd repeated it enough times, even you could remember the history.
Yeah.
His remember, not so much.
Not so good.
No, too many concussions.
Okay, so what else? So we know that the Union generals were there.
The Union soldiers actually commandeered the house, and the generals quartered the officers, not the generals, the officers of the Union troops who fought the Battle of Helena, garrisoned in Helen. They lived in Helen. Then, when General Sherman came through Arkansas, he actually garrisoned in the house and launched the Battle of Little Rock and the Battle of Vicksburg from Helena and from that house. So basically, two very instrumental battles in the North's winning of the Civil War were, at least in part, planned and orchestrated from Miss Helen. So she has a vast and very culturally important history for the United States, for the preservation of the Union. So she's going to be turning into a bed and breakfast and historic living history museum. She has her original 1858 kitchen. We do know that the house was completed in 1859, 58, 59. The family moved in. We know there were enslaved people there, but only for a very short period of time. But we do plan to use the kitchen and the living area for the enslaved people that worked in that area as a living history part. And then we're going to talk about the Union forces and how instrumental the house was in the Civil War in the main part of the home. But we're not working on Helen right now. Here is the situation with Helen. First of all, she's already on the National Register of Historic Places. For those of you who don't know, the National Register of Historic Places is just a designation. It does not limit what you can or cannot do to your building in any way, even up to demolition.
It only helps you with
federal and state tax credits.
Right.
So we are in the process of applying for federal and state tax credits to help us with the cost of her rehabilitation, but it's with the government. And anytime you do anything with the government, there's a lot of paperwork involved. So
that is one of the reasons you will not see us there a lot. Now, we have done a lot of work there. We put a new roof on Helen. We've done a lot of plaster work, some
foundation
paint
work,
stripping,
some plumbing. She's had a lot of stabilization. We wanted to get her watertight, secure, but the rest of the restoration rehabilitation isn't going to occur until we have those tax credits. And it's summer in Arkansas right now, which is about a ½ degree cooler than Hades. Really, it is miserably hot here in the summer, and Helen has no air conditioning. She does have central heat, but she does not have central air, so we're kind of waiting.
We were there last winter doing a lot of work and staying there as we worked.
Waiting till it cools off a little bit. So we're hoping that the stars align and Mercury's in retrograde and all that, so we can get back to Helen. We can get our tax credits approved and get back to Helen in the fall and winter and be working on her again.
Now let's move to
Willa. So, I did yours. So, when Louise burned down in Louisville, we were left with what, Kevin?
A lot?
An empty lot.
An empty, sad lot on a beautiful street in a wonderful town.
Prettiest streets you've ever seen, ever. It's a fairy tale street almost. It's a Mayberry street in a beautiful town, and it's an empty lot. And the city has what, Kevin?
They have a house
that sits in a public park.
I don't know what the answer to that was.
The city has. I'm gonna keep pop quizzing you.
I know.
Until
I don't know the answers.
There is a beautiful 1876 stick-style Victorian that sits in the middle of a city park that the city really has other uses that they would like to utilize the land for, but the house is sitting there, and the house was part of a donation to the city with certain codicils of the land, and the home would be used for certain purposes, but the home has kind of lost its feasibility as a structure in that space. So what are we doing, Kevin?
We are hopefully going to move that house about 6 blocks down the street, a state highway.
Of course.
And another state highway, which again means government and
state paperwork.
See how hard it is? Yes, a lot of red tape. We have to deal with power lines, we have to deal with telecommunication companies.
Gas company.
We are trying to get that house moved and have been for a long time and still actively
pursuing
In fact, tomorrow our house mover is meeting with Georgia Power, AT&T, and we're trying to come up and make sure that it's going to be feasible, that the numbers aren't ridiculous, and we can move this home.
And their numbers shouldn't be ridiculous, but that doesn't mean they won't be ridiculous.
Right.
I talked to several people before we purchased the house from the city. I spoke to several people who had moved homes. They were like, oh yeah, it was this amount of money total. The most expensive part was the utility movement, but the utility movement should be this amount of money. However, all of them told me from start to finish, from buying the home or acquiring the home to move till moving the home, for all of them was a year to a year and a half. So we announced that we had bought the home last, March. Maybe, or I can't even remember now. And everyone has expected us to move it any day now. And there have been times when we thought, any day now, we're gonna be moving this home.
We've had some dates set actually. But
yes, but we have not gotten the go ahead from Georgia Power. And unfortunately, all of the utilities are hung very low in this town. So there is the slim possibility that it may not come to fruition just because it is not economically feasible to pay to have the power lines dropped. It's still a little bit up in the air. But if we're able to move her, what are we gonna do with her, Kevin?
We are going to make her an Airbnb.
Yes.
And hopefully invite more of you lovely people to visit the great city of Louisville, Georgia. It's actually a beautiful city, great restaurants, and you would love it there.
It's a gorgeous little town, and we hope that we can, it's only 45 minutes north of Augusta?
South of Augusta, I think, and about an hour and a half to Savannah.
Yes, about an hour and a half from Atlanta. So it's a great little central hub if you want to take a vacation and see a bunch of different things and hit a bunch of different places. You can do a lot of day trips from there and then have your home base there in Willa.
So if you're watching and you work for Georgia Power,
right?
We need you
together.
Come on, help us out.
I'm over it at this point. My patience is wearing thin, and I don't have a lot of patience to begin with. So
let's move on. You ready then? Since our patience is wearing thin, we're gonna move on to our next lovely ladies.
Yes.
Not twins, but kind of an older sister and a younger sister.
Yes.
In Monticello, Arkansas, we have
Melly and Janie. Melly she's my soul child. She is my heart baby. She is an 1897 Queen Anne Victorian that was part of the estate of Judge Elza Clifton Bond and his wife Marjorie May Bond.
Marjorie May.
Who we talk a lot about. We've talked a lot about on this channel. We talk a lot about on Instagram, both of them. And then of course Marjorie May's first fiance, Clifford. That's an amazing story.
Thickens.
The plot thickens. And we are that is the restoration rehabilitation that you're going to be watching happen now. When you're watching Restoring Our Victorian episodes, we are in the midst of rehabilitating both of those beautiful properties.
And it's important to know that Judge Bond and Marjorie May owned both of those homes. They never lived in Melly.
Right. Melly was technically abandoned / vacant for at least 60 years. We thought it was 80 years, but we did have somebody reach out to us and say that they know that someone lived there in the 1950s.
They rented it
out in the 1950s, but it has been without functioning plumbing or wiring for many, many, many decades. And we know that Judge Bond, during his lifetime, he always wanted to fix up the house. He always wanted to rehabilitate it. He just never did it. So we're hoping to carry out that dream of his and get it all fixed up. But he actually used Melly. So he and Marjorie May, the properties were actually owned by Marjorie May's family, the Ingrams. The little Janie was Marjorie May's childhood home, and they also acquired the Cason house next door, which is what we refer to as Melly. And then when she married Judge Bond, they moved into Janie and lived there. And then when Judge Bond retired from his long legal career, he just stored everything from his law office.
All 18 million books.
In Melly. And then lots of other household items. So when we first purchased her, we purchased her at auction, on an online auction. A lovely resident from the town, Miss Rhonda, sent us the listing and said, please take on this project. And I'm a sucker, so we did. Bought the house at auction, bought both properties at auction, and it was just full of trash.
Right, but they are also both time capsules.
Yeah.
There is so much amazing, and have we even gone through half?
No, we haven't.
Of the items left behind by these really amazing people, the accomplished people who had no children and really have no one to tell their story.
No children and no siblings. Everybody keeps asking, what about the family? What about the family? Marjorie May, we can't find any family for her. She was an only child and had no children. Judge Bond has distant family, extended cousins, but he was an only child. So there are some second, third, fourth cousins, children of cousins are who ended up inheriting the property. So they came in, so when the Judge Bond passed away, Marjorie May passed away first. She was 6 years older than Judge Bond, so she passed away first. When Judge Bond passed away, the family came in and took everything they wanted. They went through both houses. We know that they went through all the papers because they found his will in the papers, so we know they went through everything.
There was a lot. That's the thing to remember. They took a lot, but they kept everything, so there's still so much there.
The Bonds kept everything.
And they never threw anything away, even if it was a Windex bottle that they bought in 1963.
Yes, we're going to show this to you next week. We have the glass. I mean, it's unbelievable. They were both children of the Depression. One was born in 21, one was born in 27. So they lived not only through the Depression, but through World War II with rationing and all of the things that went into that. So they are absolutely... They are perfect examples of how people who live through both of those times of want and need then live the rest of their lives. So there's so much still to be discovered in those homes.
So hopefully you don't get confused between the two. Janie is the little bungalow. Have we even mentioned that? Little Janie is the bungalow. Melly is the Victorian. We're doing work on both. You can see both in episodes of Restoring Our Victorian.
The first 7 episodes of Restoring Our Victorian are Melly and Janie. Now, our long-term plan with the Restoring Our Victorian episodes is to sort of continue them as we work into the next project and the next project and the next project, and we'll just change the cover photo as we go to the next Victorian era home that we're working on. That's the current plan. Who knows if that's what will actually happen or not. That is a relatively concise as we are capable of being as people.
Of all the projects
wrap
happening.
Up of the 4 current projects. We have the 4 Victorians we're restoring currently, and then I guess if you include Scotty, because she's an ongoing project forever and ever and ever.
Still work to be done here, believe me.
There's 5 that we're working on consecutively. We are at different phases of the project with each of the 5, but we are working on 5 all at the same time. We will have at least 1 video a week for you here on YouTube. You can be guaranteed we're going to give you at least 1 update here. But there's more.
There's a lot more.
If you join today, we'll give you extra
content.
Follow
today.
Extra content, extra pictures, extra interaction. Follow us over on...
Tell me not to wear jeans.
Right. Tell me how to dress and how I should do my hair. We have a website, ourrestorationnation.com, that has some really cute merch.
Cool, cute merch.
Fun stuff. And then again, another overview of us. Follow us over on Instagram at Our Restoration Nation. You're going to get daily updates from us there, daily photos, constant interaction. We do a lot more one-on-one over on our Instagram channel, so follow us there. We appreciate you. We thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for caring about the projects and asking, so we felt like we needed to give you this update. We will see you soon.
Bye.